AITA for leaving my perfect relationship after discovering my partner had been living a double life for years? Okay, so. I honestly don't even know how to start this. I feel like I've been screaming into a void for months, and now I'm just spilling everything here because I can't hold it in anymore, and maybe someone reading this can tell me if I'm insane, or maybe not. I'm writing this with my hands shaking, like, physically trembling as I type because it still feels unreal. Like a bad dream that you can't wake up from. I'm 27, female, F27, and my ex, let's call him E, is 29. We were together for 5 years, living together for the last 3. We had what people called a stable relationship, which now feels like a cruel joke. I mean, if someone had told me a year ago that this would happen, I would have laughed and said, no, that's not him, he's not capable of doing anything like that. But here I am, sitting on the floor of our empty apartment, with all the boxes packed, realizing I literally don't know the person I spent half a decade with. From the outside, I guess we were the couple. Friends used to say we were relationship goals all the time. People were always like, wow, you guys are so chill and happy, and I would smile and nod because, well, we were happy. Or I thought we were. We had routines, traditions, little rituals that felt sacred. Every Saturday morning, we'd make coffee together. Not just any coffee, I mean the overly complicated kind with frothed milk and weird syrups that only he liked, but I indulged him anyway. Then we'd sit on our balcony, which was basically a jungle of plants that I swear he only tolerated because he wanted me to be happy, and talk about everything, from our week at work to ridiculous what-if scenarios about life. We traveled together sometimes, nothing fancy, but trips felt like ours. Road trips where we'd blast music and sing off-key, or tiny Airbnb apartments by the beach where we'd spend hours cooking together, talking about future trips, future jobs, future life. We had shared routines that I adored. We had small jokes that nobody else understood. Our own little world. And yeah, we argued sometimes, normal couple stuff, but nothing scary. Nothing that made me question his character or our bond. And he always apologized, in a way that felt genuine, not performative. He had a career in tech, software development, kind of the classic works late, brings home weird gadgets type. I worked in marketing at a small agency, which meant I had my own deadlines, my own stress, but I felt like I could vent to him without judgment. And honestly, I could. He was attentive in a way I didn't know I needed until I had it. He remembered tiny details, like that one random story I told him about my childhood neighbor, and then referenced it months later like it mattered to him too. He would leave me little notes in my bag or send me texts when he was traveling saying, "Miss you, don't forget to eat breakfast." Silly, small, inconsequential things, but I felt loved in a way that I hadn't before. That's what made me trust him fully. We even talked about the future in ways that felt real. Not the, oh yeah, someday we'll get married kind of vague, but real, concrete stuff. Like, we'd plan which city we'd move to if one of us got a job offer, how we'd split chores if we got a bigger apartment, and sometimes even dumb stuff like whose turn it would be to handle taxes. We didn't have kids yet, but we joked endlessly about names, personalities, ridiculous parenting strategies. I guess that's the thing. I didn't just see him as my boyfriend, I saw him as my partner in literally everything. My co-conspirator in life. And that's why this hurts so much. Because the foundation I thought I was standing on didn't exist. I trusted him. Fully. Maybe naively, maybe blindly, but I believed in him in a way I've never believed in anyone else. And I think that's why this is destroying me. Because the very thing I built my identity around, our life together, our routines, the we in my head, was a lie. And now every memory feels contaminated. I keep thinking back to random moments, trying to spot red flags, but there weren't any, or at least none I could see. And I keep asking myself, was I too trusting? Was I stupid? Did I miss something obvious? But no answer comes, because the truth is worse than anything I could imagine. Even as I type this, I feel my stomach twist in knots. I look around at our apartment, well, what's left of it, because I've already started packing, and it's so surreal. Everything we built together, from furniture to memories, suddenly feels like a stage set. And I can't shake the feeling that everything I believed about my life, my relationship, and even myself, is a lie. So yeah, that's the introduction. That's me, the naive girl who had it all as the outside world saw it. And that's him, my partner, my anchor, the person I thought I could trust with my life. The rest, well, Reddit, the rest is where it all fell apart. Part 2, Backstory. Okay, so before I get into the actual nightmare, I need to really paint the picture of why I trusted him so damn much. I think part of what makes this so unbearable is that I didn't just trust him, I relied on him in ways that were deeply personal. Like, I honestly believed he was the one person who could see me, fully, and not just tolerate my flaws but genuinely understand them. And that belief wasn't shallow, it was built over years of moments that felt intimate, safe, and real. We met in college, funny enough. I was 21, barely out of my first serious relationship that ended horribly, and I was kind of burned out on dating. He was everything I thought I didn't want. Tall, nerdy, annoyingly confident, with this quiet humor that somehow made everyone around him smile. He had this way of making you feel like he was listening even when he wasn't saying much, like he was absorbing everything and storing it carefully in some corner of his brain. I remember thinking, he's different. And he was. For me, at least. From the beginning, he was attentive without being clingy. He asked questions about my childhood, my family, my weird little obsessions, like how I could recite all the moons of Jupiter or my fascination with old VHS horror movies. And I don't know, I just let him in. That's the thing, I let him in completely. I didn't even realize I was doing it. With him, I could talk about my anxiety, my irrational fears, my dreams for the future, the little victories and the small defeats, and he would absorb it all without judgment. He would remember it all. Sometimes I would say something in passing, like, I hate doing laundry on Mondays, it ruins my mood, and 2 months later he'd surprise me with a note on the washing machine that said, Mondays can suck, but you don't have to face them alone. Little things like that made me feel anchored. Like I mattered to someone in a way that wasn't just surface level. Our routines started to build around this trust. Saturday mornings were sacred, coffee, balcony, talking. Weekdays were for decompressing together after work. I remember vividly how we'd walk our tiny neighborhood at night, just wandering aimlessly, talking about everything and nothing, me complaining about work politics, him sharing coding frustrations that somehow sounded almost poetic. On Sundays, we'd make dinner together, sometimes complicated recipes that ended in laughter and burned edges because we couldn't follow instructions. It was simple, stupid, but it felt like ours. We also shared little secrets and vulnerabilities. I had panic attacks that could be triggered by something as simple as a bad email from my boss or traffic on the way home. He would sit with me, hold my hand, breathe with me, and let me know I was safe. He never made me feel small for being anxious. And I returned the favor. I listened when he had problems, offered support, stayed up late when he had deadlines and was stressed to the point of tears. There was a rhythm to us, a balance. He made me feel like a person, like I mattered, and that we were on the same team. Our plans for the future weren't vague either. We talked about moving to a bigger apartment, maybe a house if things went right. We had ideas about travel, career moves, even hypothetical kids, names, personalities, what kind of parents we'd be. We even joked about matching tattoos at one point. I wasn't naive, I knew life was messy. But I felt like I could trust him with everything. Every hope, every fear, every stupid little dream I dared to whisper. And here's the part that really gets me now, the thing I keep replaying, he wasn't just affectionate, he was consistent. Not in a performative look at me, I love you way. In small, real ways that mattered. Remembering to check in when I had a rough day. Leaving the coffee the way I liked it. Sending me texts when I was traveling, not generic miss you messages but something specific, like, don't forget your umbrella, it's raining, and I know you hate getting wet. That stuff sticks. It makes you think the person is good, reliable, unshakable. And because of that, I fully trusted him. I didn't lock my phone. I didn't feel the need to check his. I didn't even think about the possibility of betrayal. Not once. My friends sometimes joked about how much I trusted him, how naive I was, but it wasn't just trust, it was faith. Faith in a person I had built my life around. And it's that faith that's broken me. Because when that foundation disappeared, the entire world I thought I knew crumbled. Even looking back now, I can see how seamless he was. It wasn't like he had moments where he was off or slipped up. No. Everything he did reinforced the illusion. He didn't yell. He didn't cheat blatantly in a way I could see. He built an entire life around making me feel safe, loved, and important. And that's why this is so horrifying. Not just the betrayal itself, but the construction of trust that was never real. I was living in a carefully curated version of reality that existed only to keep me blind. So yeah, that's the backstory. That's why I trusted him. That's why I let him into the corners of my brain that no one else had ever been allowed into. That's why the discovery of what he really was feels like a physical gut punch every single day. I don't just feel betrayed, I feel like someone took a scalpel to the part of me that believed in love, in people, in myself, and carved it out. Part 3, Discovery. Okay, Reddit, this is where it all fell apart. I've gone back over that night in my head hundreds of times, dissecting every single second, every word, every little sound, because I still can't believe it happened and part of me keeps hoping I imagined it. But I didn't. I didn't imagine it. It started completely randomly. He had been traveling for work, again, nothing unusual, that happens with his job. I stayed home because I had deadlines at my agency, and honestly, I was tired. That day was one of those long, soul-sucking days where everything went wrong. I had spilled coffee on my laptop in the morning, my boss had sent me 3 panicked emails, and I hadn't eaten lunch until 5 p.m. By the time I got home, I was physically and mentally exhausted, and all I wanted was to collapse on the couch with a bag of chips and some terrible reality TV. So, I get home, and he isn't there yet, which is normal. I drop my bag, peel off my coat, and head toward the living room to flop on the couch. But then I notice something. His laptop bag, which he usually keeps in the corner of the bedroom, isn't there. Not unusual in itself because sometimes he leaves it at work if he's traveling the next day, but something about it feels off. I shrug it off and grab my laptop to work a little, trying to ignore the creeping sense of something isn't right. Then, I see his phone. It's on the coffee table, unlocked, screen facing up, which is weird because he is extremely private with his devices. Normally, if it's on the table, it's locked. And, Reddit, I know I shouldn't have looked, but something in me. I don't know, a tiny voice, just nudged me. I glanced at it, and there was a message notification from someone saved under just a first name. Nothing sexual in the preview, just a random, "Can we meet tonight?" My heart didn't spike at first, maybe it was innocent. I shrugged and went to my laptop, but my hand kept twitching toward the phone. Finally, I picked it up. And that's when I started seeing pieces of a puzzle I didn't even know existed. The messages weren't flirty in a casual, "I miss you" way, they were precise. Careful. Full of planning, full of details about times he wasn't home, about which friends were around, about excuses he had given me. And then, slowly, like pulling a thread, I saw it, a series of photos. With someone else. Not one photo, Reddit. Several. In his own apartment. Smiling. Laughing. Cozy. Familiar. And the worst part? They looked domestic. Like it wasn't just a fling, it was a life. A parallel life. At first, I froze. I literally couldn't breathe. I stared at that phone for what felt like an eternity, my stomach twisting in knots. I remember thinking, this can't be real. This is some kind of sick joke. But it was. Every photo, every message, every little plan he'd made with this person, it was all real. And suddenly, every memory I had of him started feeling like a lie. Every Saturday morning, every coffee, every little note he left, it all got replayed in my head like a montage, and I started noticing the things I had never questioned before. The weekends he had to work late when he was actually there with them. The trips he took that he claimed were for work but somehow included this other person. The random texts that he would delete immediately. All of it made sense in the worst possible way. I didn't confront him that night. I couldn't. I was in shock. I just sat there on the couch, scrolling, trying to see how long this had been going on, and the answer. Reddit, the answer made me want to disappear. Years. At least 3. Everything I thought I knew, everything I had trusted, was gone. And the realization was like being hit with a truck. My chest was tight, my hands shaking, tears burning my eyes, but I couldn't stop. I needed to know how deep the rabbit hole went. And it gets worse. The more I dug, the more I found out that people around us knew, or at least suspected. Old messages with friends where he casually mentioned my other weekend plans in ways that now feel deliberate. Birthday dinners I thought were just for us that included people I had never met. Reddit, even his family. I found messages that implied his sister knew about someone he was seeing on weekends, and she had been playing along, keeping the secret. I literally cannot even comprehend the level of planning and deceit here. I want to make one thing clear, this wasn't like he slipped up once. This was a full-on double life, meticulously maintained. The apartment, the routines, the intimacy, the shared future, it was a performance designed to keep me oblivious while he lived another reality on the side. And the accidental nature of discovering it makes it worse. No warning, no cheating signs I could see, just, boom. Reality shattered. By the end of that night, I had gathered enough evidence to be certain. Photos, messages, little clues, so many little things that suddenly fit together like puzzle pieces I didn't even know I was missing. And every time I looked at him in my memory, I saw him with that other person, living the life that was supposed to be mine, too. It wasn't just betrayal. It was rewriting the entire narrative of my life. And the absolute worst? The absolute worst part? I realized I wasn't even angry yet. I was too stunned. Part 4, Collapse and Decision. Okay, Reddit. This is the part I've been dreading putting into words because it's raw. It's messy. It's every single terrifying, humiliating, gut-wrenching second after I found out. And honestly, I still can't fully process it. The next morning, I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to confront him immediately. Part of me wanted to burn his apartment to the ground and disappear. But mostly, I felt frozen. Frozen in disbelief, in shame, in a spiral of thoughts that didn't make sense. Like, how could I have trusted someone so completely for so long? How could I have been so blind? And part of me still loved him, in this weird, sick way that makes me want to vomit when I admit it. When he got home that night, I tried to act normal. I didn't want to explode in front of him yet because I needed proof, and I also needed him to be caught off guard. I wanted him to slip, to reveal himself. And oh, Reddit, slip, he did, in ways I didn't even anticipate. I asked him casually, "So, how was your trip?" And he smiled that familiar, lazy smile and said, "It was fine. Tiring, as usual. Nothing suspicious on the surface." But then I asked something more pointed, "Did you see anyone while you were out of town?" And here's where the first tiny gaslight hit me. He froze for a fraction of a second, and then laughed softly, like he was amused by my paranoia. Who? Me? No, babe, why would I? I'm literally working all the time. Reddit, I felt my blood boil, but also my stomach sink. That familiar, calm, rational part of me, the part that always looked for excuses, kicked in. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I misread things. Maybe I was just tired and imagining it. But the evidence in my head, the photos, the messages, that voice didn't lie. And I pressed. I saw things. Messages. Photos. I don't even remember the exact words I used, because I was shaking so badly. I was trying to be calm, but inside, I was screaming. And that's when the real manipulation started. He looked at me with what I now realize was pure, practiced concern. Babe, you're imagining things. Are you stressed? Overworked? You're reading too much into nothing. And read it. I doubted myself. I did. For a terrifying few seconds, I thought maybe he was right. Maybe I had misread the evidence. Maybe I was being paranoid, dramatic, crazy. But then I said, don't. Don't gaslight me. I saw the photos. I saw the messages. His face changed. Not angry, not even defensive at first. Just a slow, deliberate calm, like he was expecting this moment. And he started explaining. Explaining in that annoyingly rational way, like he was giving me a choice. Look, it's complicated. You know I care about you, right? This isn't what you think. It's not cheating, not really. It's just life. You're overreacting. You're letting your imagination run wild. And then, of course, the classic guilt trip. Do you really want to destroy everything we have over this? Over a misunderstanding? I thought we trusted each other. You know I'd never hurt you intentionally. Read it, the way he spoke, calm, gentle, insinuating, made me literally question my own sanity. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. But I also started to doubt myself. Maybe I had misread things. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I was being a terrible girlfriend for even thinking this. And I could feel that twist in my stomach, the one where shame and fear and love all collide. But then, a memory hit me like a punch in the face, the weekend he had to work late. The time he went out of town for a conference. The dinners with friends I didn't know about. Every little lie he had told me over 3 years. And suddenly, doubt turned into anger. Pure, molten anger. And I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just angry at him. I was angry at myself for trusting so completely, for letting him build a life with me while secretly erasing me from it. I started asking hard questions. Why? How long? Who else knew? And he doubled down on excuses, on minimizing, on it's not what it looks like rhetoric. He tried to make it seem like I was the villain. And read it, that's when I realized the magnitude of what I was facing, not just betrayal, but masterful manipulation. Someone who had spent years orchestrating my reality while maintaining my trust and using it against me. I cried for hours that night. Not just crying, but shaking, screaming into pillows, throwing things, pacing, replaying every single interaction for signs I had missed. I rewrote memories in my head, trying to understand how much of my life had been performative on his part. And I hated myself for it. Hated myself for loving him. Hated myself for trusting. Hated myself for needing him to be real. For days, I debated what to do. Stay? Leave? Part of me wanted to confront him more, dig deeper, maybe even forgive? God, read it, the fact that I even considered forgiveness is horrifying to me now. But every time I looked at him, I saw someone I didn't know. Someone I had spent years building a life with who had been living another life on the side. Someone who had weaponized my trust. And then it hit me, crystal clear. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional, deliberate, systematic betrayal. And I would not, be a part of it anymore. That exact moment, sitting in the kitchen, phone in hand, proof in front of me, tears streaked down my face, I decided, I'm leaving. Not later. Not after one more conversation. Not after hoping he would change. I'm leaving. I left that night. Packed a bag, grabbed essentials, left a note, and walked out. I don't think I've ever felt fear, relief, and grief simultaneously like that before. The apartment felt empty without me there, but so did my life when I realized I couldn't trust him, or anyone, not the way I had. Now, months later, Reddit, I'm somewhere in between anger and numbness. I've changed. I'm more guarded. I'm slower to trust. I still replay memories in my head, but I remind myself that it wasn't me who was at fault. I wasn't stupid, I was human, and I loved someone who was, well, capable of being utterly deceptive. And the weirdest part? Life goes on. I got a new apartment, started therapy, started seeing friends I had neglected. I've rebuilt routines, small rituals for myself. And while I still feel the sting of betrayal, I've also realized that I survived something unimaginable. I survived him. And Reddit, maybe that's enough for now. So here's the question, AITA for leaving a relationship that, on the outside, looked perfect, even though part of me still feels like I'm abandoning the person I loved? Or was staying ever even an option?